Yes, another video. Maybe a 1-part or 2-part, depending on how we get through it. Okay. We have a couple 2-tree things to discuss with you people. Okay. Let us start off by saying we've been getting a couple people coming at us saying about how, oh my God, how could Charles have, escaped at 23 if he was dead at 16? Well, if Charles really died at 16, first of all, there would be no Charles. Second of all, it's true. We would not be in the situation we are in right now had he had died, really. But some people are arguing the fact that at 16, when he supposedly died and they faked his death, that is when he escaped from Radley. Well, here is our thing. Yes, okay, that might make sense, but we also feel like, was the death faked for the whole town of Rosewood? Or was it just faked so that maybe Mrs. D had somebody there fake a death certificate and fake his death just to pass it off to the family so they could stop work, whatever the case may be. I don't necessarily think that at 16 they faked his death. It was in the papers. Oh my God. Nobody knows who Charles is, but guess what? He's dead. Like, I don't think that it was like this big public thing. So it's not like they were faking it for the people at Radley. There would be no purpose behind that. I believe that maybe it was just this small, whatever, Mrs. D pulled somebody aside. Hey, I'm going to pay you. I need you to write up a fake death certificate for me. We're going to pass it off and tell Kenneth that he's dead.
She is on the board of Radley, after all, for those of you saying, if in fact Wren is Charles, how can he possibly work at Radley? Yeah.
Very easily.
Very easily, if in fact Wren is Charles, and Jessica, his mother, is on the board actually for Radley. Yes, I think that maybe she'd have something to do with that.
Well, it actually makes most sense that he would have some kind of connection to Radley, because that whole Karasimi group, whatever, we know Charles runs that. He's the whatever.
The Chuck in charge.
The Chuck in charge. And he is the one who, like, obviously Charles is the one that gave Hannah that money. Therefore, he has some kind of pull at the Karasimi group, whether he owns it, it's his group, it's whatever the case may be. And we know that is the place that closed Radley down. Correct? So it would actually make more sense that somebody on the inside is Charles. To us, it makes perfect sense. I don't know. I don't understand. Just because, like, okay, they faked his death at 16. Well, they faked his death, say it was for Kenneth's purposes. They wanted to pass it off that he was dead. Well, I don't think that she's gonna, especially if it's her son, I'm sure that she feels a little bit more safe with him being at Radley. Pretty sure that she wouldn't be like, oh, let's fake your death and let's move you out and don't worry about it. You're just going to come home with mommy and we're going to put you up in Aunt Carol's house. I still feel like he would still be a patient there. Whether the people at Radley knew that his death had been faked and she paid them off. Which brings us to our next point. Eddie Lamb.
In a conversation with Spencer,
he specifically said,
when Spencer asked about a game that the patients played that was Mona's favorite game.
Well, before that conversation, he said to her, she said something about, like, I think we're a little past whatever. He said, stop asking questions.
Okay.
She said, I think we're a little past that. And he said, to her, I don't know the exact words, but what about what he said to her was, I keep my mouth shut. That's what allows me to keep my job. So what was he talking about? What would he have to be hiding? Does he know about Ren? Does he know about Charles? Does he know about these things? That to me would be like, okay, he gets to keep his mouth shut, therefore he gets to keep his job. So, even if it was this big elaborate hoax, like, oh my god, we're going to fake Charles's death, and the people of Radley knew about it, well, let's say it's safe to assume that Mrs. De Laurentiis took care of all that. Okay, you want to keep your job? You're going to keep your mouth shut. Or, who the fuck knows? We don't know who was working at Radley at that point. Maybe she fucking fired all the staff and fucking rehired all new people. We don't know. We have no goddamn clue. We know that how hard was it for, around that time, Marion Kavanaugh was a patient there. How hard was it for Toby to get any answers? No, he couldn't find anybody that worked at Radley at that time. So is it possible that all these people were fired?
The only person that he could find that worked at Radley at that time suffered from dementia.
Yep. So then we go to more of Eddie Lamb. Spencer's playing Spencer's sitting in the common area, whatever, and
asks him about a game that the patients played that was Mona's favorite game.
He gives her the game.
Mm-hmm.
And then Ren walks in, makes Eddie leave. Him and something's going on with those two. But makes Eddie leave and says to Spencer, like, why do you have this game? And she's like, well, Eddie gave it to me to play, whatever. And he says to her, oh, well, that's just a little weird. Like, this was Mona's favorite game when she was a patient here, whatever. So then later on, when she asks Eddie about it, she says, like, oh, but Ren seemed to really be familiar with this game. Like, he said it was Mona's favorite. What does he say? He would know. So is that implying that he would know because either way it's creepy? He would know because he was close with Mona while she was there? Or he would know because he's played that game a couple times himself?
As Charles.
As a patient at Radley. Like,
ergo Charles.
A lot of this stuff, like, if you actually go back and watch all the Eddie Lamb scenes, they're all fucking creepy. And they're all about Ren.
They're really all about the fact that he has a hostile interactions with Ren all the time.
Like, Ren literally kicks him out. He's going to drop off a book, and Ren says to him, like, no, you're not going to go to see Spencer, no.
And when we finally get some kind of, we're thinking that we're going to get some clarification from him, poof, he's gone.
Gonzo.
Never to be seen again. The silence of Elam, peace the fuck out.
So that is our thing. We don't believe that they faked his death at 16 and he just stopped he was just stopped at Radley. Like, we don't think that at 16 was when he stopped being a patient at Radley. I believe it was 23, like it said, when he and Bethany escaped together. I firmly believe that, because unless she was referring to Bethany on the phone that night, it's safe to assume if she was referring to Charles, she would have reason to believe that Charles was still in Radley.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not like if she wasn't talking about Bethany escaping, she would have reason to believe that, oh my God, what do you mean? Well, how did this happen? Well, okay, let's assume that was Charles that she was talking about. That brings us to our next point. So, we learned, Marlene told us that, who was it that said it on our thing? Jessica? Was it Jessica? Who?
Jessica.
Jessica Curry?
Mm-hmm.
Reminded us of the episode, Now You See Me, Now You Don't. Well, according to Marlene, that was a big clue. Now you see me, now you don't. Granted, You could take it as the Great Charlemagne. That's when we were introduced to the Great Charlemagne, meaning the Great Charles, whatever. But can we also say that was season 4, episode 12. 2 episodes earlier was the last time we saw Ren, but in Now You See Me, Now You Don't, that is when Ren
ups and moves in with Melissa.
And this is when Spencer goes to his apartment and it's abandoned, and Shauna's there moving his stuff. Now you see him, now you fucking don't. Could we just say that if you're looking at it other than the Great Charlemagne, that would be a clue? Because that's the last time we fucking saw him.
Now here's something that, take it at face value if you will, but Marlene said that Allison's middle name plays some kind of a fucking clue.
It's a huge clue.
Well, Allison's middle name is Lauren. And if you didn't know that, you can watch the freaking episode where she was under a lie detector test. But she said that Lauren is a big clue. Lauren.
I just feel like I'm going to be very shocked if it's not Ren.
As will I.
Like, I will be very surprised if it's not.
I will be pleasantly surprised if they do it correctly. Now, if it's somebody that's going to fucking flip me the fuck out.
He's the only person that makes sense.
And I'm sorry,
it would
is
be,
it.
Yeah. Like,
because back to Ezra, okay, I'm going to have a relationship with someone in high school to the point where I am actually thinking I'm the father of this kid.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, not only that, but I have another relationship where I get engaged to that person, but meanwhile, I'm in Radley. Like, no.
No. He was having kids with Maggie, maybe. Not really, but
for all we know, that's
with Jackie, we know that, like, we know about Ezra's backstory. His mother, like, you know what I mean? We know Ezra's backstory. Not a lot of it, but we know some of his backstory. It just seems very unlikely to me that we would be able to meet his brother, his mother, and yet he was supposed to be in... What did they do? Adopt him at 16? And they fucking built a life, like this huge life together.
And his brother wasn't that much younger to the point where he'd be like, oh, yes, he just came around one day, and then I just remembered him from that point forward.
I remembered him from that point forward, but he's always been my brother. No, it doesn't make any sense. And we're not saying that they won't go with Ezra, because I don't know at this point. They're all a bunch of fucking morons, writing this show.
As we said last night, though, huge errors if they do. Huge errors.
Yep.
Huge errors if they do.
There was one more thing we wanted to talk about.
We could always come out with another video.
I know, but I think it was just one small thing that we were going to talk about. Oh, also, can somebody please explain to me? Go to our Twitter and check our picture, okay? We see Black Hoodie Charles. I don't know anymore whether it's Charles, another fucking A, fucking red coat. I don't know. But he goes to put his hands up, and
you see the black hoodie in the back, but it appears that the front of it is red. Like
you could see underneath the arms, there's red. And on the sides, there's red. But it doesn't look like it's the other picture where it's got like a black hoodie with a full red
hood over it.
Yeah. Something's up. There's 2 different pictures. So I don't know what's up with that. But that's it for now. If we think of anything else, we'll come out with another video, but don't count on it, so.
Until possibly tomorrow.
Maybe.